What's up, my fellow dorks? It is the Turtle Dork here again with a new review for you guys. Today I have for you The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise, Sophia Boutella, and Russell Crowe. Now, this is the new film that is starting off this new dark universe for Universal, which is going to incorporate a lot of their Universal monsters. So we're talking like Dracula, Wolfman, The Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon. So basically what they're trying to do is trying to really kind of update these classic Universal monsters and creating a cinematic universe for them. And this movie is supposed to be the start of that. And I have to say that if this is the start of their cinematic universe, then they have gotten off to a rough one, because The Mummy is really not a good film. Now, this being a couple of weeks kind of removed from the film, it's safe to say that this is not a movie that stays with you. It's not a movie that you're going to be talking about with your friends and dissecting and, you know, like talking about, okay, where is this universe going to go? Like, nobody is really anticipating, even though they have announced that the next film is going to be Bride of Frankenstein. Outside of that, you're not going to really hear a lot of buzz or people really talking about this, because ultimately this movie is really forgettable. Just a couple of things I want to point out, because this is really not going to be a long review. I just want to kind of give you my overall thoughts. But Tom Cruise, I feel like I'm used to really seeing him in any type of film, and usually because of his star power, when he's in the film, he usually fits well in that type of role or whatever type of film that he's in. This film, he feels drastically miscast. He doesn't feel like he fits anywhere in this film. And I have to say, a lot of that to me is due to, I think, tonally, where the movie is trying to go, which was another one of my gripes about this film, is that when this movie opens up and when it starts off, there's this big action sequence with him and Jake Johnson in Iraq, and the comedic banter between him and Jake Johnson does not work at all. And I think that where a lot of the failings of the movie comes in is with the tone of this film, and something I really wasn't expecting from something that's quote unquote supposed to be a dark universe, is that they try to bring in a lot of comedy into this film, and the comedy falls flat at every turn. Tom Cruise tries hard to be funny. Jake Johnson tries very hard to be funny. The chemistry that they have together does not work. It just really does not work. And I was not expecting that type of tone for this film. Another thing where we see this a lot, and we expect it in films, especially films of this type, especially for these, you know, big budget, you know, blockbuster summer films, you're going to get a lot of exposition. But there are clever ways to do exposition, and a lot of movies have thought of ways of giving you exposition that kind of comes outside the box. A good example is recently with Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, they did a great job of really giving you a lot of backstory and exposition when you hear her mother, Hippolyta, reading her this bedtime story, almost like this storybook of, you know, who the Amazons are, her father Zeus, and Ares, and what Ares' motivation is. It's told as kind of like this child storybook form, which is also to inform us. Here with The Mummy, we have the character of Russell Crowe, who is playing Jekyll and Hyde, which that's another thing that doesn't really work for me. He is the one that's giving a lot of exposition, and his exposition basically is voiceover narration. It just the stuff that we've seen before, but it really, it almost feels like it's being. It's kind of hard to say. But I just thought it could have been a better way, that they really could have gave us a little bit more of this backstory instead of just it feeling like, hey, my name is Russell Crowe. Let me tell you about Aminet and, why she has this vengeance, and, why she's trying to resurrect, herself, or all this other stuff. And I felt like there could have been an easier way to kind of transition to let the audience know more about her backstory, what her motives were. And so that just didn't really work for me. And then the whole thing with Jekyll and Hyde, it feels like they really tried to Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, this movie, by just filling this movie with so many different things to set up this universe, as opposed to really just focusing on this story that you're trying to tell. It's like, okay, let's show you that we have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in this film, and let's show you the skull of Dracula, and a piece of anatomy from the creature of the Black Lagoon. And it just feels like they're going out of their way to really try to expand this universe, instead of really being focused and trying to tell this story, or this new version of the Mummy, and let us buy in to these monsters and these creatures living in our contemporary times. It just, I don't know, there was just a lot of missteps with this film. The female lead, I think her name was Annabelle, her real name is Annabelle Wallace, but what was her character's name? Her character's name was Jenny. She was okay, but again, a lot of her story and a lot of her play, she plays off of Tom Cruise, and for me there was no chemistry there, so that when we get to the end of the film and we're supposed to buy in to what Tom Cruise's what his sacrifice is and what his motivation is, stems from this relationship that they have together. But at least for me, I never really buy into the chemistry that they have on screen. So at the end, it just falls flat. It just doesn't work at all. I know I'm really kind of harping on this film, but I mean, I will say that I guess some of the bright spots, or maybe one of the bright spots, I really did like the character design of the Mummy, and I do kind of like a little bit of the mythology that they really tried to build with the Mummy, with Aminet. Everything they tried to do with her, I really thought was kind of interesting, and a different version of the Mummy that we've really seen before. And I thought if they really could have kind of honed in on that and really explored that a little bit more, I thought the movie could have kind of maybe found its footing a little bit better. But overall, just the tone of it, and the casting, and the lack of chemistry between a lot of the characters, it doesn't really give it a passing grade for me. So unfortunately, I'm gonna give this movie, oh goodness, I haven't really thought about this, but I'm going to say a 55 out of 100. So it fails for me. Not enough for me to give it a passing grade, not even a D. That may change after I think about it for a while. I may bump it up to like a 60 and say, okay, you'll pass. You're still bad, but you'll pass. Because maybe this can be a guilty pleasure in like another 2 or 3 years or 5 years from now. I can pop this in and it might just be a movie I fall asleep to, which is something I do enjoy. I do enjoy falling asleep to bad movies. Transformers 4 is a movie that I regularly put in to help me fall asleep to. So don't worry, that's coming too. Last night, that review will be here very soon. So those are my thoughts for this new 2017 version of The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe. So let me know what you thought of the movie in the comments below. Go ahead, rate, like, subscribe, and share, and go ahead and check out my other dorks at MouthDork, at TheDiscoDork, and at Sidewalk Siren. And as for me, I am the Turtle Dork. And with that, I'm out.